Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be a video covering the Truthear Pure. This is a budget hybrid set coming in with one dynamic driver, 3 balanced armatures, and a price under $100. I think a lot of people are going to be happy with this as a successor to the Hexa. I do think that they perform better than the Hexa, and I think people will arguably say that they perform better than the Truthear Critical Zero for gaming-related purposes. But we'll get into my thoughts for Apex, COD, and Valorant. I do want to do also an unboxing of the Truthear Daybreak. These are going to be releasing shortly, as well as the Moondrop Space Travel 2. We'll get a little unboxing of those first, and then we'll cut into the final opinions of the Truthear Pure. So to get into the Daybreak, I've done a little bit of the work here on the unboxing, but you guys can see it does come with a nice braided cable. It has a 3.5 here as well as a 4.4, so it is an interchangeable cable. You've got actually a nice carrying case, and it comes with like a lot of room to be able to store quite a bit in there, so it's always nice to see. It has that magnetic latch there at the front side. You've got a set of silicone tips as well as the memory foam. And then the IEM here sits in a piece of foam. We'll get those out here. It is a nice, sleek aesthetic. So you've got a dark faceplate here. You've got Daybreak on one side, Truthear on the other. So a little bit of branding. You've got that chrome outline here with the chrome font on the faceplate. It is a nice resin chassis. It's got some nice ergonomics to it, some nice curvature here, fits nice in my ear, but the nozzle is on the long side and slightly wide as well. But it is a 2-pin connection here at the front side, not the heaviest IEM. Again, quite comfortable so far from what I've tested. There is a bit of translucency here in the resin chassis as well. And just looking in there, I think I see dynamic drivers on each side. Overall, so far, a pretty cool looking IEM, and one that, again, so far is fitting pretty good in my ear. I'll get some testing on this and get my final thoughts for gaming related purposes this week on the Truthear Daybreak. Again, a little bit of work getting this one open, but this is the Space Travel 2. I think it has a pretty damn cool look to the carrying case here, which is a charging dock as well. You've got the USB-C here, Bluetooth 6.0, but pulling these earbuds out, you've got a pretty interesting set of wireless buds. I'll get these tested and let you guys know my general thoughts. But overall, that case aesthetic on the Space Travel 2 is looking pretty damn cool. And then, of course, the star of the show, we've got the Truthear Pure. I've got them already pulled out, of course, for my testing, but show you guys a little bit of what you get here in the box. You've got a set of different silicone tips. You've got your memory foam tips. You've got a cable here as well. Definitely not my favorite cable, but for the price point, understandable. You've got a carrying pouch instead of a carrying case, similar to what we saw on the Truthear Critical Zero. It looks like some documents as well in that case there. Overall, though, the Truthear Pure does have a pretty cool aesthetic to it. It's got some nice lines here. The shell in general is not the most ergonomic in terms of its curvature. The top side, you can see how it kind of protrudes outward towards your ear, but overall, the nozzle size is actually not that long or wide at all. So far I've got a nice fit here with the Truthear Pure, and so far it's definitely been comfortable for long durations of game time. Again, it's a hybrid, 1 dynamic driver, 3 balanced armatures, and you can see that backside there of the chassis is slightly translucent as well, but nothing where you can quite see the drivers to a great extent. I see the dynamic sitting right there on the left side, and you can see the nozzle here is a kind of a fish mouth nozzle on the front side. So again, a nice fit and lightweight budget set on the Truthear Pure. Now, the Truthear Pure, I will put up the graph and compare it to the Volume S. One of you had actually commented that when you were looking at the graph, it seemed a little bit similar to the Volume S, but it does have some pretty significant changes. It's got some more sub-bass emphasis over the mid-bass, and I actually do feel like that mid-bass emphasis on the Volume S obviously had some benefits. The Volume S also having greater treble extension, making the space actually feel quite a bit more spacious as well, at least in terms of, and obviously the driver performance and the driver orientation, but making things feel more spread out within the space in terms of separation and layering. This set is a little bit different than the Hexa. To me, taking this in game, it's more of a not like overly warm, but a little bit of a warm neutral set with a slight V shape. I don't find the bass to be overpowering. I didn't find the treble region to be overpowering, but there are certain areas in different titles where the tuning here is either a little bit lacking in some areas or actually performing quite well in some areas. The best game that I tested on this was Valorant. I actually find this set to be a easy B+ in Valorant. It sounds as though you have a nice holographic sound from a 360-degree radius, and as people are walking up behind me, as people are crawling up and taking an angle on me, in front of me, or to the sides of me, it's got that nice draw where you feel somebody getting closer to you. You feel somebody inching up on you as they're about to peek or as they're about to cross the threshold of a wall. So that readiness in terms of reaction time, in terms of crosshair placement, just becomes that much better. Again, with that nice warmth, you get a little bit more intimacy than the Hexa. So things feel a little bit more close to you in terms of that draw, the extent of the footsteps, the extent of certain things that are crawling up on you. But not necessarily something so intimate where gunfire is drowning out from your perspective. I actually found that my audio cues, the ambient noise, the gunfire coming from my perspective is actually at a nice level that isn't covering up other things happening in the mix, people crawling up on me, etc. Nice depth perception on things that are happening around the map, and the depth perception in Valorant actually better than it is in Call of Duty as well as Apex Legends. That could be a result of the size of the maps and the effect of the audio cues in Valorant in general. The spacing, again, it's not too close, but definitely not too far. But I don't find, again, gunfire to be causing great issues with separation and layering, which is absolutely fantastic. It feels like a nice, well-balanced tuning while still providing a bit of, again, a bit of intimacy, a bit of fun in Valorant. The separation and layering is good in deathmatch in terms of 1v1s, 1v2s, but when you start getting into a little bit more of a full team-based setting when a lot of abilities are going off or some loud grenades, I actually did find it to take a hit a little bit, which is why it's not getting higher than a B+. It takes a hit a little bit in terms of separation and layering when there is a lot of going on in terms of like rushing a site and having a lot of audio cues. Light taps shine through in Valorant nicely, even with gunfire. So those light taps on some of like the higher pitched things, the draw on that is just really, really nice in Valorant. And again, I like the fact that my audio cues and the ambient noise isn't covering up things in addition to the gunfire. I did find that as far as timbre, there are things that sound a little awkward in Valorant. The Marshal as well as the Sheriff just have a weird... The Sheriff kind of has like this dull leanness to it. Sounds a little off in terms of this general bass impact that it has. And then I just found the Marshal to have a little bit of lingering resonance on Marshal shots. And also just slightly too much elevation. But I didn't find that elevation to exist with the Operator or other guns in the game, and that is pretty important because usually it's more of the bassy things that are more of a problem for Valorant in particular. So really, I do think that the Pure, especially at this price point, if you're looking for a solid budget set, particularly for Valorant, I do think that the Pure handles well and better than the Truthear Critical Zero. Now, I do rate these slightly lower in Apex as well as Call of Duty. Just getting into Apex, one of the issues is the gunfire is a little bit too shouty. So unfortunately, when you are in a big gunfight, the audio cues from your perspective as well as those around you, it just becomes a little bit too much. And the draw on the footsteps, especially people pushing you or people in buildings, kind of fades away. So even if you're landing, let's say in World's Edge, you're landing at the streamer building, you've got people on train tracks that are looting, it actually already is the audio draw on being able to pay attention to their positioning in the building is a little bit off. The imaging isn't quite as good as other sets in Apex in general for whatever reason, not as good as it is in Valorant at least. And then when you add gunfire to the mix or grenades or abilities, it just becomes a little bit too much to hear those lighter taps, those lighter slides, people climbing buildings, etc. The biggest issue, though, is going to be that shoutiness with gunfire, particularly from your perspective, as well as those around you. It becomes a little bit too hard to hear things, unfortunately, in third-party, fourth-party situations. But even in just a 3v3 with gunfire, it just becomes a little bit hard to pick up on those lighter taps. A lot of the gunfire just comes off a little bit too shouty in comparison to other things in the mix. And that does transition as well into popping shield batteries, popping shield cells. It just is a little bit too much draw in that upper region that causes other things to drown out a little bit. So that kind of deer in the headlights feeling when you're popping a heal instead of being able to pay attention and swap and transition when you need to. I also find like the audio draw to be a little bit lacking in terms of it general imaging. Like shots coming from a distance, I get a generality, but I don't find like I'm getting this great sense of detail in imaging at depth. As well as, like, again, the lighter taps in buildings. I just don't find the draw on those things giving me this great sense of knowing exactly where people are in a building. I get a pretty good general sense, which is why I'd like to have these at a B for Apex. I'm just not finding it to be very revealing in that regard, especially in comparing it to other sets like, let's say, the Keyfind Delchi AE. I find it to be slacking a little bit in comparison to the Delchi AE. Now, getting into Call of Duty, I just want to pull out my notes here for COD as well, but I did find like some gunfire, some different guns to be a little bit shouty. I did find airstrikes, people kicking in doors, and the like bassy things happening around you in terms of grenades. That clarity in terms of like the attack and just lack of bloom and lack of resonance actually is very clean for Call of Duty and being able to pay attention in gunfights. I find like in particular in Call of Duty that depth imaging is the worst in comparison to Apex and Valorant. Like things being shot at a distance, it's easy to hear like generally what POI those things are coming from. But when you're really trying to like pinpoint what building it's coming from in Rebirth, it's actually very difficult to have like this great sense of imaging at things that are happening from a distance. The pull on footsteps is coming through nicely. So being able to pay attention to people above me, below me, in a building, and where exactly they are, and that draw of them coming and about to peek me or turn a corner, those things actually pull through quite nicely. Also, I should note, I did find the Treyarch mix on this to be working the best out of the headphones and headphone bass boost, and I am using the Asla Sedna EarFit lights for my testing with the Triple Win Moonshadow cable. I hear that this is a set that tip rolling can become a large factor. So you guys might have other outcomes with different ear tips. So keep that in mind as well. I didn't find anything overwhelming. It's got a nice balance in terms of the general audio. I found my audio cues to be reduced in the Treyarch mix. So like my gunfire, my running wasn't increased where it would occlude other things. And what my teammates were doing around me as well, I didn't find to be overwhelming. Trying to focus on the imaging of the other enemies that are around me. Again, I noted that shots at a distance, the depth perception just felt off in terms of general imaging. Multiple shots, the separation could be better when there's multiple things going on at the same time. So like a lot of people shooting, the separation layering takes a hit there. And I noted, again, the rumbles handled quite well for audio airstrikes and mortar strikes and things like that. And my last note, again, was just depth feeling off in general with overall imaging. But overall, like, These do get a solid B in Call of Duty. Like the close range fights, everything came through quite nicely, able to hear and pay attention to multiple enemies rotating in buildings and kicking through different doors. Never felt that deer in the headlights with the Treyarch mix and the Truthear Pure in gunfights. Actually just handles really well. Just that separation layering could be a little bit better, and that imaging in at a depth and people in like different buildings, those things could be shining through a little bit better for Call of Duty. But definitely for this price point, getting a solid B for the Truthear Pure. If your main game is Valorant, I do think your best experience is going to be Valorant at a B+ on the wallhack certified tier list. That is going to be it for this one, guys, in terms of the Truthear Pure for gaming-related purposes. I will get into maybe a little bit more of a budget roundup in a few weeks or so with some other sets that I have here. But the next video will probably be the Truthear Daybreak, so keep your eyes peeled for that. That is going to be it for this one, guys. I think the Truthear Pure at this price point, getting a solid B, is a nice budget option if you're looking for a set that has a little bit of intimacy and that neutrality, but coming off and leaning a little bit towards that area of warmth. It does sound like a nice set in general. Vocals on Discord, listening to my teammates, watching YouTube videos, etc. I do think it is a solid overall budget set. That's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope it helped. If it did, please leave a sub to the channel. See you guys in the next review. Peace.